Helene in Bavaria, nicknamed Nene, sister of Empress Elizabeth, portrayed in the old sissy films as the spurned, tragic figure. But what was Helene really like? Picture this for a moment. A young woman standing on the edge of destiny, chosen by an empire to wear the crown, only to watch her own sister step into that light instead, leaving her in the shadows of history. Yet instead of breaking, she rose quietly, becoming something far more powerful than any throne could offer, a woman of unbreakable duty, silent strength and endless kindness. This is the true story of Helene, not the tragic footnote from the movies, but the real angel who lived with grace when the world expected her to fall. If you've ever felt overlooked, rejected, or pushed aside by life, stay with me through this journey because Helene's life will remind you that your story isn't over when plans change. It's just beginning in a more beautiful way. Hit that like button right now if you're ready for inspiration that actually moves your heart. Share this with one friend who needs motivation today, and subscribe so we can keep uncovering these hidden gems of history that teach us how to stand tall no matter what. Helene was born on April 4, 1834, the daughter of Duke Max in Bavaria and Princess Ludovica of Bavaria. She grew up in Possenhofen, together with her sister Elizabeth, far removed from the strict ceremonial court that would later try to claim them. Imagine golden mornings where the sun kissed the lake and the air smelled of fresh pine and wildflowers, children running freely without the weight of crowns or protocols pressing down on their shoulders. Ludovica consciously raised her children with freedom, giving them space to breathe, to dream, to simply be. Plenty of nature surrounded them every single day, long walks through forests that made their hearts feel alive, lots of exercise that built strong bodies and even stronger spirits, reading books that opened worlds beyond the castle walls, learning languages that connected them to distant lands, and music that filled their evenings with songs and laughter. The sisters spent a great deal of time together, inseparable like two halves of the same soul, reading side by side under ancient trees, learning English with excitement sparkling in their eyes, and speaking it to each other like a little secret language that no one else understood, giggling at private jokes that only they could share. Those quiet moments created a bond so deep that nothing, not even thrones or heartbreaks, could ever fully break it. But differences emerged early on, beautiful differences that showed the unique light each sister carried. While Elizabeth rode wildly across fields, hunted with fearless joy, and sought freedom in every breath, Helene often sat quietly with needle and thread, absorbed in her work, her fingers moving with such patience and care that every stitch seemed like a prayer of calm in a busy world. Her mother observed this with concern at first, wondering if Helene seemed too serious, too dutiful for a life that might demand sparkle and show. But it was precisely these qualities that made her in Ludovica's eyes the ideal empress, steady as a rock, kind as morning light, ready to hold an empire with gentle but firm hands. Helene's childhood was not all carefree though, because life has a way of teaching even the youngest hearts about loss. An early loss marked them both deeply. A young African servant named Osman, part of the household who brought warmth and stories from faraway lands, died far too soon. For the first time, Helene and Elizabeth encountered grief and mortality, holding each other's hands through tears, learning that love stays even when people leave, a lesson that would shape Helene's entire life into one of compassion and service. Helene, called Nine by the family, grew tall and slender, with even features and dark hair that accentuated her fair complexion like a painting come to life. Her dark eyes gazed seriously, not fiery but reserved, holding wisdom beyond her years, making her seem mature, dutiful, and quiet even at a young age. Later she would become an energetic woman, socially engaged and deeply religious, but that quiet core remained her greatest gift. She shares a close, lifelong friendship with her younger sister Elizabeth, a friendship that would be tested like fire but never consumed. Yet this closeness is about to be severely tested in Badishal, a place that would change everything forever. The Emperor of Austria wishes to marry, and his mother, Archduchess Sophie, begins her search carefully and purposefully, scanning the royal families for the perfect match. Finally, she chooses a niece, Helene in Bavaria, the eldest daughter of her sister Ludovica and Duke Max. Helene seems to Sophie the right choice, earnest, dutiful, and perfectly suited for the rigid beauty of court life, someone who could stand tall beside an emperor without flinching. The future bride and groom have only met once as children, a fleeting memory like a half-remembered dream, so a reunion is arranged in Badishal with all the pomp and hope an empire could offer. The imperial betrothal is to take place at the end of this journey, a moment meant to write history in golden letters. Duchess Ludovica sets off with the 19-year-old Helene, and with Elizabeth, her younger sister, because family stays together even in such big moments. Elizabeth accompanies them, bringing her wild spirit and laughter into the carriage rides and formal dinners. Duke Max stays behind, not out of animosity towards the Habsburgs, but out of a deep desire to distance himself from the court's heavy chains. Duke Max loves freedom, the zither playing soft melodies late into the night, riding across open lands, and hunting with pure joy. He is well-travelled, well-read and interested in history, surrounding himself with artists, scholars and musicians in his famous Arthurian circle where ideas flowed freer than wine. While the choice of an empress is to be made in Badishal, he stays away, trusting life to unfold as it should. But then the unthinkable happens, the kind of twist that no one sees coming. The young Emperor Franz Joseph falls in love not with Helene, but with Elizabeth, her sparkling energy capturing his heart in an instant. He presents her to the astonished public as his bride, changing the course of two sisters, lives in a single heartbeat. Helene is spurned, left standing in the shadow while her sister becomes empress. The emperor's choice did not destroy the sisters' relationship though, because real love between siblings runs deeper than any crown. Helene remained at Elizabeth's side, even in Vienna, even at the wedding, quietly supporting her with that steady presence that only a true sister can give. When the young empress was exhausted from the weight of new duties, it was Helene who stood by her, quietly and reliably, offering comfort without needing thanks. But Bad Ischitl had consequences for Helene herself, consequences that would test her spirit like nothing before. She was now considered the abandoned one, a stigma heavy to bear for a young woman of that time, whispers following her like shadows. The family worried, especially her mother, wondering if Helene would ever marry or if a life of quiet renunciation would be her only path. Yet Helene didn't withdraw into bitterness or self-pity. She found another path, one that shone brighter than any throne ever could. In Possenhofen she cared for the sick and the poor with her own hands, sitting beside bedsides, offering medicine and kind words, painting beautiful scenes that brought light to dark rooms, helping wherever need called, comforting hearts that felt broken. People gave her a name that would follow her forever, the Angel of Possenhofen, because that is exactly what she became, an angel in human form, showing the world that true royalty lives in service, not in titles. If Helene's choice to keep serving after rejection is touching your heart right now, please smash that like button to honor her quiet strength. Share this moment with someone who feels overlooked in their own life, so they can find hope. And subscribe because stories like this prove that rejection is often just redirection towards something even more meaningful. Then the unexpected happened, the kind of beautiful surprise life saves for those who never stop being kind. A serious suitor entered Helene's life, Archduke Maximilian of Thurn and Taxis, from a good family, wealthy and respected, someone who knew the family not from glittering courts but from close, real moments. He recognized Helene not as the spurned princess but as the woman of depth and grace, and he fell in love, asking for her hand with genuine admiration. For Duke Max it was a joy, seeing his daughter find happiness again, and for Helene it was a new opportunity, a fresh chapter written in hope instead of regret. After the rejection in Bad Ischitl, she was suddenly no longer forgotten, her worth shining through for those with eyes to see it. There were concerns at the Bavarian court about rank and equality, questions that could have stalled everything, but these could be resolved with wisdom and love. The solution was clear and elegant. Helene would retain her title. Even as Princess of Thurn and Taxis, she would remain a duchess in Bavaria, carrying both her identities with pride. On May 22, 1858, the engagement was celebrated in Possenhofen, laughter and music filling the air once more, a new chapter beginning with promise. Duke Max had a chapel built especially for the wedding in Possenhofen, a visible symbol of how much this marriage meant to the family, a sacred space where love could bloom freely. Helene received a generous dowry, money, jewelry, clothes, everything a bride of her station was entitled to, nothing lacking because her mother Ludovica ensured every detail was perfect. The marriage contract was also clearly stipulated so Helene would have security. Her dowry remained her personal property. She received a substantial mourning gift and an annual allowance for clothing, charitable work and her own expenses, meaning she would have no financial worries ever. She was to have no financial worries, stepping into her new life securely, in an orderly fashion that honored her dutiful nature. And on August 25, 1858, the wedding took place in Possenhofen. The sky was grey and the rain fell incessantly, but the celebration went on nonetheless, because real joy doesn't wait for perfect weather. On Lake Standbeck, boats with lanterns brought the bridal couple a musical greeting, lights dancing on the water like stars come down to bless them. When the rain briefly let up, Duke Max arranged for fireworks to be set off, lights exploding over the water in colours of hope, music playing, joy winning despite the bad weather, a perfect metaphor for Helene's life. After a few days in Munich, the young couple travelled on to Regensburg, where Helene and her husband were received with great ceremony, honours, and hope from everyone around them. For Helene, things seemed to have come full circle, from rejected princess to respected princess, a new life beginning with love and purpose at its centre. Helene soon becomes a mother, the greatest role of all. On June 1, 1859, her first child is born, a daughter, Princess Louise, who would later marry Friedrich Eugen, Prince of Hohenzollern-Sigmaringen, and carry forward that same graceful spirit. On May 28, 1860, her second daughter, Princess Elizabeth, is born, who in 1877 would marry Dom Miguel of Portugal, Duke of Braganza, continuing the family's legacy with pride. Barely a year after the birth of her second child, Helene is needed again, not as a princess but as a sister, because family calls when the storms come. Empress Elizabeth is seriously ill, coughing, fever, pain gripping her body, withdrawing from the world and refusing food, while doctors fear tuberculosis and rumours swirl through Vienna that the Empress might not survive. In classic Empress Elizabeth films, it is primarily her mother, Duchess Ludovica, who supports the Empress during her illness. But in reality, this sacred task falls to her sister Helene on Corfu. Emperor Franz Joseph urgently, personally asks for her help, knowing no one could calm and heal Elizabeth like Helene could. The farewell is difficult for Helene, leaving two small children behind tugs at her heart, but she sets off without hesitation because duty and love always come first. On Corfu, she finds an exhausted Empress, emaciated, despondent and ill, shadows under her eyes telling stories of deep suffering. Helene begins to nurse her with gentle hands and soothing words, staying by her side day and night, encouraging small steps toward health. And slowly it shows results. Elizabeth recovers, goes outside again, takes excursions on land and water, colour returning to her cheeks and light to her eyes. Helene stays until the danger has fully passed, only then returning home, accomplished with the same quiet excellence she always brought. At the Viennese court this is deeply appreciated, people saying of her that she has a calming and sensible effect, the kind of presence that steadies entire empires. The marriage of Helene and Maximilian is initially happy, filled with the everyday beauties of shared life. Two more children are born. In 1862, the long-awaited Prince Maximilian Maria arrives, bringing joy and hope for the future. And in 1867, his brother Albert Maria follows, completing their beautiful family. The family lived in Regensburg in a new house with new daily routines full of laughter, lessons and love. But their happiness was short-lived because life sometimes takes away what it just gave. Maximilian Anton fell ill, his body changing with weakness and shortness of breath, treatments proving ineffective no matter how hard they tried. On June 26, 1867, he died unexpectedly at only 36 years old, leaving Helene a widow with 4 children, her heart shattered yet still beating for them. Back in Regensburg, a different life began for Helene, quiet, orderly and solitary at times, but never empty. She redecorated, avoiding the rooms that reminded her too sharply of her husband, choosing instead to live close to her children, pouring her love into them every single day. She wrote with honest emotion, "I live for them that they may be her purpose, her support, her meaning," words that show the depth of a mother's heart that refuses to break completely. After the death of her father-in-law in 1871, Helene's life changed again in a big way. Her eldest son Maximilian Maria became Prince of Thurn and Taxis at a young age, and Helene assumed guardianship not reluctantly, but resolutely, stepping into leadership with the same dutiful spirit she had always shown. For 12 years, she managed the family's affairs objectively, prudently, and successfully, proving herself a clever administrator and a skilled businesswoman. The family's holdings grew under her wise hands. Large tracts of land were acquired primarily in Croatia and Slovenia, showing how capable she truly was when given responsibility. In 1883, Maximilian Maria came of age at 21 and assumed responsibility, his mother handing over the reins with pride as he took over. He was educated, artistic and ambitious, supporting science, museums and associations while beginning a fundamental renovation of St. Peter's Castle, a new grand and impressive castle arising from his vision. But this future was short-lived, another painful twist in Helene's path. In 1885, Maximilian Maria died suddenly at only 23 years old, a heart condition undetected since childhood finally taking him. The news shook Regensburg and struck Helene to her core, She lost not only her son, but also her hope for the future she had carefully built. Helene nearly collapsed under the weight. Contemporary witnesses speak of profound melancholy and emotional exhaustion, yet she could not break because her younger son Albert was only 19 and needed her still. Helene assumed guardianship for the second time, continuing to manage the family until 1888 with the same steady hand. She found strength in her faith during those dark nights, in quiet moments of prayer, and in helping others because serving became her healing. She supported hospitals, cared for the needy with her own hands, donated wood, money, and her precious time, never asking for recognition. She had lost much: her husband, her son, and parts of her heart, yet Helene remained dutiful, religious, and unwavering, showing the world what real endurance looks like. In her final years, Helene withdrew more and more from public life, living in seclusion, often alone, but surrounded by books, pictures, and beautiful memories that kept her company. Order lost some of its meaning for her, time itself became fluid as she grew weary. She was late for trains that departed without her, meals finished before she arrived. Outwardly she appeared distracted, but inwardly she carried a deep tiredness. Yet despite this restlessness, one thing remained unchanged: her duty, her sense of responsibility, her will to protect her son's legacy, no matter how heavy it felt. In 1890 her health deteriorated significantly, the body finally asking for rest after so many years of giving. Empress Elizabeth rushed to Regensburg. The sisters saw each other for the last time, speaking in English as they had always done since childhood, their secret language wrapping around talks of life and pain, love and loss. Shortly afterward, on May 16, 1890, Helene died, leaving behind a legacy quieter than her sisters but no less powerful. Helene in Bavaria was never the empress, never the radiant one, never the famous one that crowds cheered for, yet she was reliable, dutiful, and steadfast in every season of life. She bore responsibility when others crumbled under its weight. She endured where others fled. She chose kindness when bitterness would have been easier. The old sissy films portray her as the despised, the tragic one left behind, but in reality she was something else entirely. A woman with a heart as wide as the sky, a sense of duty as strong as mountains, and quiet strength that outshone any crown. She was the angel of Possenhofen, and her story proves that the greatest lights often shine not on thrones, but in the gentle acts of service we give every day. If Helene's life has stirred something deep inside you today, if her resilience makes you want to keep going despite your own storms, then please like this video with all your heart. Share it far and wide so more people can find the motivation to rise after every fall. And subscribe right now, because together we can keep telling these true stories that remind us we are all capable of becoming angels in our own way. Thank you for walking this path with me. Your support means the world and keeps these inspiring tales alive for everyone who needs them. Stay strong, stay kind, and remember, like Helene, your quiet strength is your greatest power. Until the next story, keep shining.